What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. And in today's video I've got a pretty cool comp for you guys today, because in this comp I competed against World Cup climbers like Ben Hanna and Nathan Sato, Vail Everett and more, so let's get right on into it. Alright, so starting off, this was actually my second attempt on this climb because my first attempt didn't get recorded.
That's good.
Looking at this one, I thought that this one would be doable, but it had this like really weird high heel hook thing. And then when I touched this sloper, I thought that there was no way anyone was going to do that climb because the sloper was so bad. And then moving on to the second climb, on my first attempt I tried to go for the move from the starting position, but it was like really hard to generate out of it, so I didn't get enough height to hold on to the sloper. But the next two attempts I used like the corner of the other volume, and that made it a lot easier to generate, but the sloper was still like really hard to hold. But I did get close to sticking it on my last attempt. Moving on to the third one, I really thought that I could do this one because it really looked like my style and it was really crimpy and overhanging, and I was able to flash to the zone, but like after the zone it got really hard and I wasn't fully sure of what to do for the beta. A little bit later I saw someone do this like double toe hook that helped out a little to get closer to the top, but the next crimp was like super terrible and slippery. And then this last attempt I got even closer, but before I could get the crimp a little bit better, my foot just slipped. Moving on to number 4, I could tell that it was a running start, but my first attempt I just like didn't run fast enough and I just fell right off. But then the next attempt I ran harder and was able to start it pretty easily. And getting to the zone was pretty easy, but then the next part you had to like do this really weird push while trying to get your foot up. And I was finally able to get my foot up, but then like flipping the left hand into an undercling crimp was really hard, and I almost got it a few times but just couldn't stick it. And then moving on to the slab, number 5, this one was another running start. But after getting the start, the first move was really hard because it had this like really hard lean over on the super slippy volume. And then on my first attempt, I just like kind of missed the foot while trying to go down. And then the next attempt going for the move, my foot just slipped a little on the volume, and that was just enough to make me fall off. And then on my last attempt, I tried a different beta where I went to the higher foot first and then matched with my hand. But while I was trying to move my foot off of that foothold to bring it back down, it just kind of like slipped off and just kind of knocked me off. And I was really close to sticking that, but it just didn't work. Moving on to the next one, it was probably my favorite one because it had all my favorite holds, which are these cheetah pinches and all the flat hold borderline minis. And I was able to flash to the zone on this one, but then the next move was like this really big hard move. I was kind of close to holding it, but I think that I needed to move my foot to a different spot, and that's what I tried on the next attempt, and I got even closer to sticking it, but it was still just really hard. Now for these next two, they had them downstairs on the lead wall with like extra pads, which is pretty cool. But on this first attempt, when I went for the jump, my foot just slipped off the starting volume and I fell off. But the next attempt, I was able to get a lot closer, but the hold that I was jumping to was just like really bad and super slippery because it was dual techs. And then on my last attempt, when I jumped and hit the hold, I think that if my foot didn't like press on the wall, that I would have stuck the move. Moving on to the last qualifier, I thought that this one I would struggle on the most because the first move is coordination, and coordination is not my specialty, but it actually felt closer than I thought it would, and on the second attempt I like almost died on this move. On the third attempt, I just kind of like blanked out and let my body feel out the move, and I stuck it. And then after that, getting to the zone wasn't too bad, and once I got there, I pretty much knew that I was going to send the climb because I think I'm pretty good at paddles, and I was able to stick this one and get my one top of the qualifiers, which is pretty cool. Moving on to finals, which I didn't make because you actually had to top all 8 of the qualifiers to make finals. Like all 6 people who made finals for the men topped all the boulders, which is just crazy. But here's the first climb, and here's Ben Han on it. The first move looked pretty cool, and then the second half of the climb didn't look that bad, and he was able to top it out. Then here's Hugo on the slab, which looked really hard because all the feet were like super small and bad, and from there he was able to get the only top of the slab, which was pretty sick. Here's Cosmo on number 3, which is probably the hardest one of the finals because no one was able to top it, but Cos did get pretty close. Here's Sienna on women's number 3, which looked pretty hard. And here's Ben again on men's number 3, and he was actually the closest to sending it because he was able to like slap the finish hold. And then here's Nathan on the final climb for the men. It looked almost like a hard lead route, and it was pretty cool because he was able to top it. Hugo ended up winning for the men and Sienna for the women, but that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We've got more coming out soon, so please leave a like and subscribe. Bye.